Okay guys, welcome to Crispy Licks. This is Chris. So, today's question, do you need to know the notes on the fretboard? And that answer is yes. But there's caveats with this. So, just like a lot of things with guitar, music, not everything's just black and white. So you do want to know them, but depending on where you are in guitar, you might not need to start doing it yet, but you should be learning them, but you don't have to like just learn them all at once or something like that, right? So, for example, if you're a beginner player and you're just reading tabs and having fun, playing some AC/DC, then, you're fine for now, but it's good to, usually how I teach guitar is like this when it comes to the notes. I make sure that my students know the major chords, like A, right, B, C, D, E, F, G, right, all the whole chords right there. So you have a starting point, right? So, and then your string notes, right? E, A, D, G, B, E, right? And so this works as a starting point for you to know those things. But so as a beginner, if you're say you're learning Back in Black by AC/DC, right? And the first, or Metallica Enter Sandman, and one of the chords is that low E power chord. Just knowing that that's a low E power chord is great, and you can probably kind of work out, since this is E major, that this just hitting the top three strings is in some kind of an E, right? So that's an E, or an E power chord, right? E5, right? So having that foundation is great. So for beginner players, just be aware of what notes you're playing, right? And then say if you're learning Highway to Hell, right? It starts on an A, and then it goes D, D, G, right? D, D, G, D, D, G, right? So you'll know that, those notes from there. So for beginner players, just be aware of that. Keep reading the tabs, get your finger strength, up to par, and then try to just be aware and conscious of the notes that you're playing when you're learning, say, a new song. And if it's too hard, like you're learning the song and then you can't figure out what note it is, it's on a lower string, or I should say a higher string, and you're not familiar with those yet, that's fine. And in this lesson, I'll show you how to figure those ones out as well. So this is really geared towards the intermediate, beginner, intermediate, advanced kind of player that knows some of the notes, but not all of them. First things first, you should know, obviously, we're just following the alphabet, right? So if you're on an A, the next whole note is B, and then C, D, right? We all know the alphabet. So then we just have to add our sharps and flats, right? So a sharp, just think of it's the note plus a little bit, and flat is the note minus a little bit, right? And then there's just the two exceptions, to that rule, which is because every note has a sharp or flat except for two of them, which is E has no sharp and B has no sharp. It goes right to the next note, right? So that's why I teach my students to learn all the notes on the top two strings first. And you can start with the whole notes, doing no sharps or flats. Just learn the whole notes first. And then apply the sharps and flats to it, afterwards, right? But you should know, you're like your E, F, and then get to F sharp, right? And then G, because, this is F, right? And then plus a fret is F sharp. The next one, then we have G, then we have G sharp, then we have A, then we have A sharp, and then we have B. And then after B, there's no B sharp, like I said before, so then goes right to C. And then, since we took out a sharp, that also works the opposite way. So if you're at C, and then you want to go back, even though it's only a half step, you're not going to C flat, because there's no B sharp, there's no C flat. Just like if there's no F, or there's no E sharp, I mean, so there's no F flat. So those are the only, otherwise it works just like the alphabet, and then with the sharp and flat system. It's a little different than like piano, where it's really easy because all the sharps and flats are black keys and the white keys are all whole notes. You know, I don't have that luxury. We have other workarounds, but it's not that hard once you get into it. So say you have the top two strings down already, right? And you know, that's what you want to learn first. If you've gotten this far and you don't, in the video, and you don't know all the notes on your top two strings, learn all the notes on your top two strings, right? And then once you do, what I usually do is use octave tricks, you know, to learn the ones on the lower strings. I use a combination of octave tricks and then using the cage system, because for, you know, once you get more advanced, that's really helpful to know all the notes on these higher strings. Right, you can figure all those out too with bar chords. You know, your bar chords, right? You know, learn where all your roots are, right? So if you got your, you know, if your pentatonic scale, say, so if I'm in G and I got G here, and then G here, right? So just knowing those octaves, right? So say if I just learned the first two strings, right? E and A, right? Now I got, I'm on G, and I can do the octave to get to the D string. So now I know the 5th fret on D is G, just by doing that octave there, right? And now A, same thing, right? B, C, you know? So now if you know the top two strings and you know your power chords, now you can learn all the notes on the D string, because it's the same as on the E string, just up 2 frets and then down 2 strings. And then we're right there. Right, here's G, go up 2, and then down 2, and that's your octave right there, right? So you can do that everywhere. So you know, there's just like F's, G, A, E, right? So it's real easy with the octaves like that. So that's how you would get the D string, say, worked out, okay? So now let's say we got the D string worked out and we want to go to the G string, right? Okay, so how do I figure out the ones on the G? Well, we can do the same thing, but we do it off the A string, because you already know your top two string notes on the E and A string. So we know, say, this is A, then we got A sharp, we got B. So go from B, say you got your power chord here, you know, your full power chord like this. This is a B as well. So you do the same thing. Go up 2 frets and then down 2 strings, and that's the same note. So from B you go B, C, C sharp, and then down a string, down a string. And that works for everything. So say if you're playing some random song and you've got the 7th fret on G, and you're like, oh, you see, I wonder what note that is. And then you can just go, well, I'll just go back 2 strings, and then down 2 notes, 2 frets, I should say. Oh, that's a D, because I already learned my top 2 strings. So learning your top 2 strings is like the gateway to learning the rest. So yeah, so you know that's a D then. So the 7th fret here on G, that's a D, right? And then if you use alternate tunings or anything like that, then you just know you adjust from that. So if you're tuning down a half step, right, now you know that's D flat instead of D, and you know, so on and so on. But so now you got the first 4 strings down, all the notes done. But now you may be saying, Chris, but what happens when we get to the B and the high E string? Well, the high E string is a little easy because that's the same as the low E string. That's why they're both E, right? And then, but you can also, so let's get to the B string then, right? So what's on the B string? How to figure that out easily. So that way is a little, not tricky, but it's the same kind of thing. So you're still doing an octave, and we're going to use the A string. But so to do the octave off the A string, you're going to do it like this, right? You're going to pick, say, for example, it's the 5th fret on the B string, okay? And you don't know what note that is, but you want to find out because you need to for whatever reason, or because you want to learn this, right? So what you can do is go, what I do is you go a step ahead of it, right? And then go all the way up to the A string. And then that is the note that you're at here. So it would be like this. So that 5th fret is on the B string is an E. And I know that because you can go up a whole step and then go up to the A string, right? So we're just string jumping and changing frets, and then that shows us, you know, where the E is, right? And you hit them and you'll know when you hit them together, you know, if they're the same note, right? If it comes out like, then you know that's not the right note, right? So that's a way that I teach it, because learning the notes, it's going to take time, and you know, depending how much you practice, usually somebody doesn't want to sit there and practice, you know, learn the notes over and over and over again, you know, spending a lot of time doing it, you know, because you got to leave a lot of time for fun with guitar, because that's what we're trying to do with this, right? Is a lot of us just trying to have fun and maybe get our skill set higher up there. But yeah, so that's how I would get all the ones on the B string, right? It's just doing like that, right? And now learning the cage system, that'll also help you if you're to that point yet where you know all the notes on the top 2 strings. Learning the cage system can be very helpful, but that's another video you have to get into. Now you can also do an octave trick for the high E string, say if, like for example, if you're on the D string, right? Or I'm sorry, the G string. If you're on the G at the 3rd fret, you can just go up 1, 2, 3 frets on the high E, and that's the same note there, right? So on the G, I just went down 2 strings and then went up 1, 2, 3 frets. So you can also use this to play cool octave things, right? So for example, you can go like, right? Or with the other thing too, right? You can right? So you can put those octave things into use, and that'll help you learn, you know, the notes fast as well too, because now you're not only just learning the notes, but you're making music with them as well, right? So same thing with doing power chords, with taking your finger off here. I can't, ring finger off here. Sorry. So now you got C, D, E, F, G, and A, right? Right? So sometimes instead of just playing something with a power chord, like, right, you can use that octave thing, and it'll add another flavor to your playing, besides just doing, power chords, if that's all you know at this point. And with the notes. So I'll go over each one again. So if you know your power chords, right, if you're on the E string up here, take off that ring finger. I know the D, and I know the 5th fret on D is G, because this is G here. So I go up 2, down 2. So all the way up, those are the notes, right? So A string, same thing. Just go up 2 frets, down 2 strings. Now I got the octaves in place. So now I can, whatever this note is here, I know that note's the same, right? And then we get to the B string, right? Now we can do, we go up 2 and then down 3 strings, right? So if we're right here, and then we go up 2, and then down 3 strings, what do you know? That's a D note. So that means that this is a D note, okay? And then the high E string, that's the same as the low E. But you can also use the G string here. Go from the 3rd fret, say here, and then go down 2, and then up 3 frets, and that's your octave. Alright, hope that helps. And hopefully you guys like and subscribe, and I'll have some other stuff coming soon. Thanks for the view.